A wolf soulmate romance written by Clara Nightshade. Prologue. A girl torn between two worlds. A love that defies blood. A destiny written in moonlight and shadow. When 17-year-old Evelyn Cross wakes up in the mystical realm of Elaria after a strange accident, she thinks she's dreaming. But under the blood moon, she transforms into something impossible, a female werewolf, something that shouldn't exist. Hunted by beasts and courted by secrets, Evelyn discovers the terrifying truth. She is the reincarnation of Lady Elvira Nightbloom, a noble vampire whose forbidden love once shattered kingdoms. Drawn to Lucian Ashthorne, heir to the vampire clan that betrayed her past self, Evelyn is torn between memories that aren't hers and feelings that are all too real. As war brews between vampires and werewolves, and ancient relics stir to life, Evelyn must choose between reclaiming her identity or forging her own path. But when love, legacy, and power collide under the rising blood moon, Evelyn learns the hardest truth of all. You can't outrun destiny when you were born to rewrite it. Chapter 1. The howl that shattered silence. The rain pelted against the windshield like 1,000 tiny drums, each beat matching the frantic rhythm of Evelyn Cross's heart. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, the headlights barely cutting through the fog that curled over the rural road like ghostly fingers. Her breath fogged up the glass, and the radio spat static, then silence. Of course it had to go dead now on the loneliest stretch of Highway 19, miles from anywhere. Evelyn squinted at the map fluttering in the passenger seat. I should have taken that left, she muttered. Then the world exploded. A blinding light seared her vision. A pressure like the ocean floor crushed her lungs. And for a split second, she was nowhere and everywhere all at once. The car vanished. The road vanished. The rain vanished. There was only silence. And then came the cold. Evelyn blinked awake, gasping as her back hit damp earth. Trees loomed overhead, gnarled, ancient, and nothing like the pines of her hometown. The moon hung above, full and fat, casting the forest in a silvery glow. Her fingers curled into moss. Her jeans were torn, her jacket scorched at the seams. What the? Her voice felt hollow in the thick silence. She stumbled upright, scanning the woods. No sign of a road. No power lines. No tire tracks. Only the low whisper of leaves swaying in the night. She staggered toward the nearest clearing, each step crunching on frostbitten grass. Then she heard it. Long, dissonant, wild. It didn't sound like any wolf documentary she'd watched, not that she watched many. It was layered, almost human. Her blood ran cold. Her brain screamed, run, but her legs locked in place. Another howl answered, and this one was closer. Suddenly, her vision swam. Her joints ached, her spine twisted with a sickening pop, and agony flared across her limbs. Her scream was swallowed by the rustling canopy as her body convulsed. Bones snapped, muscles ripped and reformed. Her nails lengthened into claws. Her teeth cracked and ray grew sharper, and her skin burned before being swallowed by coarse, silver fur. She collapsed to all fours, heaving, heart pounding like war drums. What is happening to me? She tried to scream, but only a guttural snarl escaped her throat. The pain faded, but something else replaced it. A terrible clarity, the scent of pine, the heartbeat of a squirrel in the tree above, the distant hum of blood pulsing through another creature close by, another wolf, male, approaching fast. Evelyn spun just as the creature broke into the clearing, a towering, dark-furred beast with eyes like molten amber. Its ears twitched as it took her in, surprised. And then, it stepped back. Confusion flashed across the beast's face. A female, the thought echoed in her head. Not her own voice but his. Wolves didn't speak. She knew that. But here, in this twisted dream of a world, they did. Before either could react, a blur of black and crimson descended from the trees. A vampire. Evelyn didn't need to be told. She knew deep in her reshaped bones, from the way his porcelain skin shimmered beneath moonlight, from the way his eyes pierced into hers like twin daggers of frost. And yet, he didn't strike. Instead, he reached out and flung a heavy velvet cloak over her trembling, lupine form. Cover yourself, he said, voice cold and clipped. They'll be coming. She blinked up at him, dazed and drooling. The beast inside her whimpered. He turned, cape fluttering, and vanished into shadow. Then the world exploded again. Not literally this time, though it felt like it. Her bones shattered and rain it once more, shrinking, reforming. Claws receded. Fur vanished. In moments she was just Evelyn again, huddled under a vampire's cloak in a clearing that didn't belong to her world. She passed out, Evelyn awoke to the taste of iron on her tongue and the weight of something warm and heavy draped over her body, the velvet cloak. It still clung to her shoulders like a shield. Her limbs felt like jelly, her bones bruised from the inside out. She tried to sit up, pain lanced through her ribs and dropped back down, groaning. Well, you're alive. That's inconvenient. The voice was smooth, every syllable dipped in disdain. Evelyn's eyes fluttered open to find a figure crouched beside her, pale as winter snow and far too elegant for someone sitting on dirt. His coat was embroidered with silver-threaded vines, and his long hair shimmered obsidian in the moonlight, but it was his eyes icy, calculating, and too old for his youthful face that rooted her in place. You, she rasped. You can speak. Another inconvenience. He stood. I thought I'd have to drag your corpse back. That would have been simpler. Evelyn struggled upright, the cloak sliding from her shoulder. Where am I? He tilted his head, clearly unimpressed. Elaria? Elaria? The word tasted foreign. Her head spun. What is this place? What's wrong with me? You changed, he said, as if commenting on the weather. You howled. You transformed. Which, last I checked, shouldn't be possible, especially not for someone with your anatomy. She stared. You mean because I'm a girl? Exactly. He stepped closer, and Evelyn flinched. He paused, expression unreadable. You're trembling. Afraid. Good. It means you understand something's terribly wrong. Who are you? She asked. He hesitated. Then, with a voice quiet but commanding, he said Lucienne. Lucienne Ashthorne. Something in her chest clenched. That name echoed in the hollow spaces of her memory, like a bell chiming through fog. Ashthorne. Wait, she whispered. I've heard that name before. In my dream I saw a castle. White stone. A woman with violet eyes. Lucienne's gaze sharpened. Evel, and didn't notice. She was remembering now a dark ballroom, chandeliers flickering like dying stars, a man bleeding roses, and her hand pale and unfamiliar reaching for his face. A name surfaced like a ghost from the deep. Elvira, she breathed. Lucy, and flinched. Evelyn's head snapped up. Do you know that name? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned away, back straight and rigid. We should move. You're not safe here. She pushed herself up. Tell me. Later. No, now. I said later. His voice cracked like a whip. You're alive only because I intervened. I can just as easily let you die. Evelyn recoiled, stung. You saved me. Why? Lucienne's jaw ticked. I don't know. The admission hung between them, heavy and strange. She studied him, the perfect stillness, the icy disdain, the predator poised beneath noble garb, and yet, beneath all that, something else, something fractured. She didn't trust him, but she needed him. I'm Evelyn, she said finally. Evelyn Cross. Lucienne nodded, then flicked his fingers toward the woods. Come, Evelyn Cross, before the other wolves find you. Other wolves? Yes, the ones who won't be so fascinated by your existence. He glanced sideways at her. And if you ever shift again without warning, I won't be kind next time. Noted, she muttered. They moved through the trees, Lucy, and barely made a sound, his steps like whispers on snow. Evelyn, on the other hand, stumbled on every root, every rock, her human body still remembering the agony of bones becoming beasts. The woods grew darker. The air was thick with the scent of damp leaves and wild things. How did I even get here? She asked. Lucy, and didn't look at her. That's a question for someone wiser than I. You don't know? I know you didn't come through any gate sanctioned by the Trikeland Council. That means your arrival was either an accident, his voice lowered, or a curse. Evelyn's skin crawled. Up ahead, the trees parted. A crumbling stone structure sat hunched beneath ivy and moss, an old hunting lodge, or what remained of it. Lucienne entered first, lighting a lantern with a flick of his fingers. No match, no spark, just blood magic, Evelyn realized as the lantern glowed with a bluish hue. She followed, wrapping the cloaked Iter around her shoulders. Lucienne gestured to a threadbare armchair. Sit. You look like you'll fall apart if the wind sneezes. She collapsed into the chair with a sigh. Thanks for the vote of confidence. He stood across from her, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. You're not from here. You smell odd. Like two things at once. Wolf. And something. Older. She swallowed. I'm just a girl. No, you're not. He leaned in. You're something dangerous. And dangerous things don't last long in Elaria. His words sent a chill up her spine. And yet, Lucienne murmured, I can't seem to leave you alone. Their eyes met. Something ancient stirred behind his gaze. Something familiar. And Evelyn, heart pounding, realized she'd seen him before. Not on Earth. Not in dreams. but in memories that weren't hers. A ballroom, a kiss in shadow, a dagger soaked in regret. Lucienne, Ashthorne, Elvira. The world tilted again, and this time she welcomed the fall. Chapter to ashes in moonlight. The morning in Elaria did not begin with birdsong. It began with a scream. Evelyn jolted upright, breath ragged, sweat clinging to her neck despite the chilly stone walls of the ruined lodge. Her hands were shaking, her mouth dry. She didn't even remember falling asleep, but the dream still clung to her, thick and sticky as blood. A ballroom cloaked in black velvet, moonlight through stained glass windows, her hand wielding a dagger, burying it into a chest she once adored. Lucienne's chest. She shivered, pushing her fingers into her hair. What the hell is wrong with me? From the other side of the room came the soft clink of metal. Lucienne stood near the hearth and lit, of course examining a curved blade under the rising light. The morning sun filtered through cracked shutters, but never touched his skin. He stayed in the shadows like it was instinct. Maybe it was. You screamed, he said without turning. I noticed, she muttered. He slid the blade back into its sheath and faced her. Nightmares. No, her voice trembled. Memories. That word changed his expression. Slightly. A flicker of something. Caution. Regret. Recognition. You remember her, don't you? Elvira. Lucienne didn't reply. He stepped closer instead, every movement smooth, deliberate. I saw myself. In her body, in her voice. There was a man in chains, and she bit her lip. I stabbed you. His lips twitched. You remember that? I think I do. Then your transformation is accelerating faster than I thought. Lucienne's tone turned clinical. You're not just becoming her, you're synchronizing, fragments of her life merging into your mind. Evelyn stood abruptly, the cloak pooling at her feet. You knew this was happening, that I wasn't just some lost girl, I suspected, and you didn't tell me. He stepped forward, voice cool as frost. I've known 1,000 liars, Evelyn. Half the creatures in this world will wear someone else's skin if it means gaining power. I had to be sure. You thought I was pretending to be her? Elvira Nightbloom vanished a century ago, without a trace. If you'd lived through what she did and somehow returned, you would not have woken up crying in a crumbling lodge, stinking of earth there in confusion. Evelyn's hands curled into fists. So what now? You bring me back to your castle. Parade me in front of your vampire court like some dead girl come home. Lucienne's eyes glinted. Tempting. She turned away, heart hammering. Evelyn, he said. Quieter now. Do you know what it means to be her? She didn't answer. He stepped behind her. Elvira Nightbloom was the moon's beloved, the last heir of House Nightbloom. Her death shattered the Ashthorne alliance, began the war again in secret. Why? Lucienne hesitated. Because she loved me. Evelyn's breath caught. His voice dropped to a whisper. And I loved her. They stood in silence. Then Evelyn turned, her eyes bright with defiance. I'm not her. I know. I'm not a vampire. I know that too. I didn't ask for this. He smiled, just a little. Neither did I. A long pause followed. Tension danced in the cold air between them. Threads of past and present twisted into one unbearable knot. Lucienne straightened. You need training. Control. If you shift again mid-town, you'll start a massacre. I don't even know what I shifted into. A she-wolf. He crossed his arms, which shouldn't exist. I've noticed that, thank you. He inclined his head. We'll visit the Hollow Grove. There's an oracle there. If anyone can untangle what you are, it's her. And if I say no? Lucienne's expression didn't change. Then the other clans will hunt you down. Ashthorne, Gravemoor, Vanderguard. To them, you are a breach in natural law. Because I'm a girl with fangs and fur, she snapped. No, he said quietly. Because you are a symbol, and symbols start wars. She didn't respond, couldn't. Her body felt like it didn't belong to her anymore. Her thoughts weren't entirely her own. Even her reflection, in a shard of cracked mirror across the room, looked older somehow, eyes darker, jaw sharper. The Evelyn from her world wouldn't have survived a night alone with a vampire. The Evelyn here had done that and more. She didn't trust Lucienne, but she needed him. Fine, she said, take me to your oracle, but no more secrets. He met her gaze. You'll regret that. I already do. He gestured to the door. Then let's go. As they stepped into the morning, the cloak wrapped around her shoulders once more. Wind rustled through the trees, and Evelyn paused, glancing over her shoulder. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure in the woods, a woman with wild silver hair and eyes like glowing embers, watching. Then the breeze shifted, and the vision was gone. But Evelyn felt it. Something was watching her, and the shadows of Elaria whispered her name. The forest thickened as they traveled east. It wasn't like any forest Evelyn had ever seen too quiet, too alive. The trees leaned toward them as they passed, their gnarled branches webbed with silvery moss that shimmered faintly under filtered sunlight. Shadows darted just out of sight, too quick and graceful for animals. Lucian moved with eerie ease, steps gliding over roots and rocks as though the terrain bent for him. Evelyn, still adjusting to hearse or human limbs, lagged behind, her boots catching on brambles and mud. The velvet cloak dragged behind her like a royal train, far too fine for a girl who used to eat instant noodles in bed. You could slow down, she huffed. Lucy didn't turn. I could. She scowled and kept pace, eyes flicking across the underbrush. Every snap of twig or flutter of wing made her flinch. Her senses still felt wrong. Too sharp. Too much. She could smell Lucien's blood, cool and ancient like iron kissed with rose in the decay of something dead. At least 200 feet away. It made her gag. How much farther? She asked. Another mile. 2. If you keep walking like a newborn deer. Charming as always. He glanced over his shoulder, the corner of his mouth twitching. Would you prefer silence? I'd prefer coffee and a way home. You'll get neither. She grunted, and the wind answered with a low moan through the trees. It wasn't natural. The sound was guttural, layered like breathing filtered through a throat thick with fur. Lucian halted, his eyes narrowing. Evelyn followed his gaze. Something was watching them, and then it moved. A blur of grey streaked through the underbrush. Another answered to the left, then another, to the right. Evelyn's breath caught as 3 hulking shapes emerged from the trees, werewolves, taller and broader than anything she'd imagined. Their bodies rippled with sinew beneath matted fur, amber eyes glowed with suspicion and aggression. The largest stepped forward. His fur was charcoal with streaks of rust like dried blood. A long scar split his muzzle, and his voice, when he shifted to speech, was gravel. She doesn't smell right, he growled. She's no she-wolf. She's cursed. Lucian stepped in front of Evelyn without hesitation, his presence suddenly lethal. Stand down, Thornclaw. The werewolf tilted his head, smirking as his form twisted. Muscles cracked and contracted until the beast gave way to a broad-shouldered man, shirtless, wearing only rough pants and scars. His dark eyes glittered with disdain. Ivan Thornclaw, Lucian said coolly. Still, as ugly as ever. And you? Ivan spat, still hiding behind silken fangs. Evelyn peered around Lucian. You know him? I regret that I do. Ivan's gaze snapped to her. She speaks. She also bites, Evelyn muttered. Ivan studied her. His eyes weren't cruel, just wary. A female wolf is an omen, he said. A bad one. First time the moon saw your kind, it wept blood. I didn't choose this. No one does. But the world pays for it anyway. Lucian tensed. We don't have time for this. Step aside, Ivan snorted. You drag a half-born girl through sacred woods, where the wind doesn't forgive and the soil remembers old blood. You think I'll let that pass? Evelyn stepped forward. We're not here to cause trouble. Ivan looked at her then, really looked. His eyes narrowed. You smell of ash and silver, vampire, and yet, he inhaled. Wolf, true-born. Lucian's voice was ice. She's under my protection. Ivan raised a brow. Then you should protect her from herself. Without warning, he strode forward too fast for Evelyn to react and gripped her wrist. Lucian was on him in an instant. They crashed into the earth with a snarl, Lucian's dagger pressed to Ivan's throat. The werewolf's claw slashed across Lucian's coat, shredding fabric but not flesh. Evelyn's scream shattered the standoff. Both froze. Her body was a light, eyes glowing faintly, breath misting in the warm air, the outline of fur flickering beneath her skin. Ivan stepped back, stunned. She's not transformed. She's bleeding through. Lucian pulled away, expression hard. She doesn't know how to control it. Ivan looked between them. That's because she's not whole. Something's locked inside her. I know, Lucian muttered. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. Her heart thudded painfully. Why am I like this? Ivan's voice softened barely. Because something ancient is waking in you, and the world will tear itself apart to stop it. Lucian spoke over his shoulder. We're going to the Hollow Grove. Ivan frowned. Then take the river path. The ridge is no longer safe. Gravemoor scouts were seen near the border. Lucian stiffened. They're early. They're hunting, Ivan replied, eyes flicking to Evelyn. She might be what they're looking for. Evelyn stepped closer to Ivan. Why did you grab me? I had to be sure you were real, he said. We've heard tales for years. A girl wolf. A cursed one. Born of 2 bloods. The last time one existed. His voice railed off. It ended in fire. Who told you those stories? He glanced at the trees, the forest, the moon, the ones who remember. Lucienne took her arm. We're done here. Ivan didn't stop them, but as they turned to go, he called out, if she loses herself, Ashthorne, will you still protect her? Lucienne didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence that followed said more than words ever could. Chapter 3: Echoes of the Forgotten. They arrived at Hollow Grove as twilight kissed the edge of the sky. Evelyn stared wide-eyed, as the forest parted like a curtain into a circular glade ringed with trees, so ancient they leaned inward, branches twisted into crude arches. The clearing pulsed with faint blue light emanating from the moss-covered stones encircling the center, where a pool of perfectly still water shimmered like glass. Mist hovered low. The air hummed with a soft resonance, like the bones of the world were humming a lullaby only the old could hear. Lucienne stopped at the edge and held out her hand. Stay close. This place, it remembers pain. That's comforting, Evelyn muttered, but stepped in behind him. The moment her boot touched the soil, she felt it something stirring beneath her skin. Not pain, not magic, recognition. As if the ground itself whispered, "You've come home." A woman stepped from the shadows between two trees. She was neither young nor old, but timeless. Her robes were woven from moonlight and black ivy. Her silver braids fell past her waist, and a blindfold made from spider silk covered her eyes. Yet Evelyn felt those eyes anyway, seeing more than the world allowed. Lucienne bowed slightly. Lady Motra, the oracle, tilted her head. You bring me something impossible, Lord Ashthorne. I bring you someone in need of truth. Matt returned toward Evelyn. Step forward, child. Evelyn hesitated. Her instincts screamed to run, but something deeper, a pull from within, drew her feet forward until she stood on the smooth stone rim of the sacred pool. Mist curled around her ankles. The oracle extended a hand, palm up. Let me see you. Lucienne touched Evelyn's elbow lightly. You don't have to. I do, she whispered, then placed her hand into Matra's. The moment their skin touched, a jolt surged through Evelyn. Not pain, but memory, like 1,000 voices whispering all at once. Fragments of a life not hers flooding her mind, velvet halls, broken vows, a boy with silver eyes bleeding beneath moonlight. Evelyn cried out and dropped to her knees. Her heartbeat thundered. Matra didn't flinch. Her voice was calm, distant. She carries a soul torn in two. Elvira's echo sleeps within her, trapped, frayed, yearning. Evelyn gasped. So I really am her. You are Evelyn Cross, Matra said gently. But you are also the remnant of Elvira Nightbloom, stitched to your soul by magic not born of this world. Lucienne stepped closer, tense. Who did this? The oracle turned her head toward him. The one who loved her, and lost her. Lucienne's breath caught. Evelyn looked between them. Wait, you mean you did this? Lucienne's face was unreadable. I thought I could bring her back. But you didn't bring her back, Evelyn whispered. You brought me. Matra released her hand, and thus the cycle begins anew. But something is wrong. The bond frays. The vessel resists. And if it breaks? Lucienne stepped forward. Tell us how to stop it. You must gather what was lost. Matra turned toward the pool. 3 relics scattered in blood and shadow. The blood-lit moonstone, the bone of Cain, and the soul stone. Evelyn blinked. Those are real? Matra nodded. Each belonged to a ruling house. Each anchors a soul to this world. Together, they may restore the balance between Evelyn and Elvira, between beast and blood. Lucienne's voice was quiet. And if we fail? The oracle's blindfold fluttered in a wind that did not blow. Then the soul will shatter. Elvira will be lost forever, and Evelyn may become something worse. Evelyn's heart clenched. She didn't want to be a vessel. She didn't want to be fate's pawn. But more than anything, she didn't want to disappear. Where are the relics? She asked, standing. The moonstone lies beneath the bleeding hills, guarded by the hollow fang pack. The bone of Cain is in Vanderguard vaults sealed by ancient oaths. And the soul stone, Matra's voice dropped, is still in Ashthorne hands. Lucienne stiffened. No one told me. Matra turned to him. Because it is not yours. It is Emed's. The name hung heavy. Lucienne's fists clenched. He's hoarding power. He always has, the oracle murmured. Evelyn stepped away from the pool. Then we'll get them. All 3. Lucienne gave her a sideways glance. You speak like a warrior. I feel like one, she replied, her voice firmer than she expected. Matra bowed her head. Be swift. The blood moon rises soon, and only its light can fuel the ritual. Evelyn blinked. How soon? The oracle's lips parted into a faint, sorrowful smile. 12 nights. No more. 12 days to save my soul, Evelyn muttered. Great. Lucien offered her his arm. Come, we'll head to the hills first. The wolves will be the easier ones. You say that like it's not terrifying. He gave her a faint smirk. You'll get used to it. As they turned to leave the grove, the mist thickened behind them. The ancient trees whispered in the wind, their limbs groaning like memories come alive. And as they passed through the threshold of roots and moss, Evelyn felt it, the world watching. Fate, biding its time. The bleeding hills lived up to their name. The soil was rust-red and cracked like an open wound, streaked with iron-rich sediment that gave the land a coppery scent Evelyn couldn't stop smelling. Every step left faint reed dust on her boots. The sky above stretched wide and pale, clouds drifting low, almost close enough to touch. Jagged hills rose like broken bones beneath the skin of the world, hiding secrets in every crevice. Lucien moved silently beside her, cloaked and brooding as ever, but Evelyn could feel the tension in him. His eyes were sharper than usual. His fingers hovered closer to the dagger at his hip. He didn't like being here. Is it the pack? She asked. Lucien's jaw tightened. Yes, they're hollow fangs, known for blood rites, old traditions. They don't answer to any warden. Like Ivan. No, his eyes flicked to her. Ivan still has a code. The hollow fangs have only instinct and prophecy. Evelyn slowed. What do they want? To survive. To keep the moonstone hidden. And maybe to tear you apart and see what secrets bleed out. Lovely, she muttered. So glad we came. A howl split the silence. Not one of warning but of welcome, which somehow made it worse. Within minutes, shapes emerged from the scarlet mist, tall, lupine figures cloaked in bone and leather garb, faces hidden behind carved masks of snarling beasts. They formed a loose circle around Evelyn and Lucien, their movements fluid and purposeful. From among them stepped a woman. She wore no mask. Her face was painted in streaks of reed and ash, and silver runes coiled along her collarbone like ivy. Her hair was thick and white, falling in heavy braids, and her eyes umber and molten locked onto Evelyn like a predator appraising prey. You're the girl wolf, she said. The one who howled on a night no woman should. Evelyn braced herself. I'm Evelyn Cross. The woman smiled, revealing sharpened canines. You're something far older than that, child. Lucien stepped forward. We seek the blood-lit moonstone. I know. The woman said. We dreamed of your coming. The Ashthorne and the twice-lived. Evelyn blinked. Twice-lived. You wear another's soul like a second skin. The woman said. Elvira's voice is already whispering through your burns. Evelyn's throat dried. Who are you? I am Rhea, daughter of the first blood singer, Alpha of the Hollow Fangs. Rhea's voice echoed with strange authority, ancient but not unkind. Lucien was unreadable. Will you give us the moonstone? Rhea tilted her head. Nothing in this world is given. Not even truth. Evelyn stepped forward, surprising even herself. Then what do you want? The wolves stirred. Rhea smiled again. A trial. Evelyn hesitated. What kind of trial? One of blood. Of choice. We will take you to the pit of cinders. There, you'll face your shadow. If you survive, the moonstone is yours. Lucien interjected, voice low. You're forcing her into a rite she doesn't understand. She must understand herself, Rhea said, or the soul within her will devour her. Evelyn drew a breath. I'll do it. Lucien turned. Evelyn, I have to, she said. We need the artifact. We don't have time to argue. His eyes searched hers. She could see the battle behind them, logic against fear, control against emotion. But in the end, he nodded once. Rhea raised her hand, and the circle of wolves parted. Come, girl wolf. Your past awaits. They lead her into a fissure in the red hills, down winding steps carved into stone by claw and time. Torches lined the walls, their flames flickering green and gold. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became until it felt like she was walking through breath. Finally, they reached at the pit of cinders. A wide cavern opened before her, its walls glistening with veins of obsidian. In the center lay a shallow basin filled with what looked like embers, but Evelyn felt no heat. It was quiet here, deathly quiet. This is where we burn the truth from within, Rhea said. Evelyn stepped forward. The embers began to glow brighter. Enter when ready, Rhea said. And remember, what you see may not be yours, but it will still cut. Evelyn nodded. Lucien reached for her hand. I'll be waiting, he said softly. She squeezed his fingers, then turned and stepped into the pit. The world went white. She stood in a garden of ash. Its stretched for miles flowers turned to dust, trees weeping blood. A castle loomed in the distance, its towers crumbling under the weight of centuries. The sky above bled crimson, and in the center of it all stood a girl. Evelyn knew her instantly. She wore a black gown stitched with moonlight, her long silver hair cascading over bare shoulders. Her eyes were violet, but colder than Evelyn had imagined. "Elvira," she whispered. The girl turned, smiling faintly. "You came." Evelyn stepped forward. "Is this a memory?" "No," Elvira said. "It's a warning." "Why do I feel like I'm losing myself?" "Because you are." Elvira walked toward her. "You're not strong enough to hold both lives. You never were." "That's not fair. Neither was my death." Evelyn's voice cracked. "What happened to you?" Elvira's eyes filled with shadow. "I loved him, and I was punished for it." "Lucienne." The weight of it hit her like thunder. "I don't want to die," Evelyn said. "Then don't become me." Elvira raised a hand and Evelyn saw the dagger in her palm. "Fight," the echo whispered. Then the ash screamed, and the real trial began. Chapter 4: A Soul Divided. Ash howled like wind as Evelyn faced Elvira in the pit. It wasn't truly Elvira, not the girl in velvet gowns who haunted her dreams, but something darker. Her posture was regal, yes, but twisted with sorrow and rage. Her smile was edged in grief. Her fingers curled around the dagger like it belonged there, like it was an extension of her. "You're not me," Evelyn said, but the words trembled. Elvira tilted her head. "But I am. I am the part of you that remembers." "Remembers what?" "Betrayal, blood, love." She stepped closer, bare feet silent on the ash. "And what it cost us." The pit began to flicker, the glowing cinders responding to Elvira's presence like old flames greeting an old god. Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears. Her body trembled with the weight of the air, thick with memory and magic. "I didn't ask for your memories," Evelyn said, "and yet here you are." Elvira smiled without warmth. "You carry my name in your marrow. My voice hums in your skull. You are me, Evelyn, just newer, softer." "I'm not soft." Her fists clenched. "I'm trying to survive. Survival is a beginning, not a destiny." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "You think I'm weak. I know you are. You still hope. You still dream. That's dangerous. Hope isn't weakness. It is when the world kills everything you love." Evelyn felt a sudden rush of heat and fury, hers and not hers. Emotions she hadn't lived but could feel with terrifying clarity: the cold stone of a betrayal, the burn of a kiss turned into poison, the sound of Lucienne's voice screaming her name before the dagger struck. "What happened to us?" she whispered. "Why did you die?" Elvira blinked slowly, violet eyes softening just enough to hint at something behind the fury. "I chose love," she said, "and the world chose war." The dagger shimmered. A reflection arched the blade Evelyn's face, but it shifted, bleeding into Elvira's until there was no distinction between the two. "You want the moonstone," Elvira said. "Then earn it." She lunged. Evelyn barely dodged. The blade sliced air beside her cheek. Pain bloomed not from the wound but from the sudden rush of something ancient within her flaring to life. She didn't just dodge, she moved like someone who had done this before. Muscles reacted before she thought. She ducked, spun, and kicked. The motions were alien, but her body obeyed them like memory. Elvira vanished into ash, then reformed behind her. The dagger scraped across Evelyn's arm. Blood spilled scarlet, vibrant, real. The cinders responded, glowing brighter. Evelyn stumbled back, breathing hard. "This is insane. This is truth." Elvira raised her hand. "You must master it or die under it." The ash thickened. Shapes moved through it, ghosts of Evelyn's life. Her bedroom, her best friend's laugh. The echo of her mother's warning, "Don't go chasing stories too deep, Evie. You never know what'll pull you under." She screamed and swiped at the illusions. "I'm not just your past." "No," Elvira said, stalking closer, "you're my future." The dagger flashed again, but this time Evelyn caught her wrist. Pain flared in her chest, not from injury, but from impact to souls colliding like stars in a dying sky. "I don't want to become you," she hissed. "Then don't. Be more." Evelyn twisted the blade from Elvira's hand and pointed it at her. "Then give me control." Elvira smiled, eyes soft now, almost proud. "You've always had it." The world cracked, the ash ignited, and Evelyn fell. She woke on her knees in the pit, surrounded by glowing embers. Lucienne was there in an instant, catching her as she swayed. "Evelyn." "I'm fine," she whispered, breath ragged. "You're bleeding." She looked down. Her forearm was gashed, but something else caught her eye. The blood shimmered faintly with violet light, just like Elvira's had in the dream. Rhea stepped forward, nodding solemnly. "She has passed the trial." Lucienne helped her to her feet. "Where's the moonstone?" Rhea gestured to a stone altar at the edge of the pit. Resting atop it was a rough, black gemstone veined with red. It pulsed faintly alive, but asleep. Evelyn stepped forward, her steps slow, reverent. The moment her fingers touched it, a pulse surged up her arm, cold, wild, hungry. And yet, it felt right. "It's warm," she murmured. Rhea nodded. "It remembers your soul." Lucien stepped beside her. "One down. 2 to go." Evelyn closed her fingers around the moonstone. For the first time since arriving in Elaria, she felt not like an intruder but like someone waking up. They left the bleeding hills at dawn. Evelyn clutched the blood-lit moonstone close, its warmth pulsing in time with her heartbeat. It didn't just hum, it breathed. With every step away from the hollow fangs lands, she felt it shifting against her skin like it wanted to burrow deeper into her palm, to nestle somewhere permanent, like it recognized her as home. Lucien watched her carefully as they descended the scarlet ridges. "How do you feel?" "Like I was set on fire and stitched back together with starlight." She glanced at him, lips twitching. "So, you know." "Totally fine." He didn't smile, but the corners of his mouth softened. "You survived the cinders. That makes you one of the few." "Did Elvira ever do it?" Lucien hesitated. "No, but she would have passed, had she tried." "You share more than blood." Evelyn looked away. "That's what I'm afraid of." The path narrowed into a sun-appled ravine, trees woven with hanging vines overhead. The colors of Elaria grew richer here: blue leaves, gold grasses, birds that shimmered like living sapphires darting between the branches. She glanced at Lucien. "Why didn't you tell me about the soul stone?" His jaw tightened. "Because I didn't know it was with Imid. If I had, you would have stolen it." "No," he said grimly. "I would have burned the manor to the ground to get it back." Evelyn believed him. Lucien's anger wasn't loud. It was cold, patient, like frost creeping across glass, the kind that waited for the right moment to shatter everything. "How long before we reach Vanderguard?" she asked. 2 days if the roads hold and Gravemoor doesn't intercept us. Elor's clan? Lucien nodded. "They keep to themselves, mostly, but they're loyal to no one but themselves. And Elor," his voice dropped. "He's more dangerous than his silence suggests." Evelyn touched the moonstone again. "We'll get the next artifact, the bone of Cain, whatever it takes." Lucien watched her for a moment, something unreadable in his gaze. "You're changing. Into Elvira?" "No," he turned away. "Into something else." They camped that night beside a glacial stream. Evelyn stared into the flickering fire as Lucien leaned against a tree, eyes half closed but never fully asleep. The moonstone lay wrapped in velvet beside her, but she could still feel its thrum through the cloth. She thought of the trial, of Elvira's violet eyes, the dagger, the ash. Then, without warning, the world shifted. One blink, and the fire was gone. The trees were wrong, taller, hungrier. The sky above was crimson and cloudless. And beside her, Lucien was no longer Lucien but younger, less guarded, his hair shorter, his eyes open, bright with fury and affection. "Elvira," he said, reaching for her. She couldn't move. His hand cupped her face, tender and trembling. "Say the word. Say it, and I will turn on them all. I will forsake Ashthorne." She tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't obey. "Say it," he whispered again, and then the sky shattered. She gasped awake, fingers clutching her throat. Lucien was already at her side. "You saw something?" She nodded, shivering. "A memory. But not mine. It was hers. It was you." He didn't deny it. The moonstone accelerates soul fusion. It pulls pieces of Elvira toward the surface. "I saw you beg her to run. You offered to abandon Ashthorne." Lucien's jaw clenched. "I did, but she didn't say yes." No, his voice was hollow. "She stayed, and she died." Evelyn swallowed hard. "What happens if I remember everything?" Lucien met her gaze. "Then you will no longer wonder who you are. But you may not like the answer." They sat in silence. Then Evelyn whispered, "Would you do it again? Would you give it all up if I asked?" Lucien didn't move for a long moment. Then, "Yes." Her breath caught. "But not for Elvira," he added quietly. "For you." Evelyn blinked, heat blooming in her chest, but she said nothing, just looked at the stars. They were foreign, distant, like glass shards scattered across an alien sky. And yet, for the first time, she didn't feel lost beneath them. She felt cold. Chapter 5: Bones of the Lost. The snow began as a whisper. By midday, it howled. Evelyn trudged beside Lucien through the snowy forest, boots sinking into fresh powder that blanketed the winding path. Trees here were pale and skeletal, their bark nearly white, twisted like ancient guardians mourning in silence. Frost clung to their branches, bending them low, their limbs brittle with cold. "This is Vanderguard territory?" Evelyn asked, pulling the velvet cloak tighter around her shoulders. Lucienne nodded. "Welcome to Hollow Reach, home of secrets, and worse politics." She squinted through the falling snow. "I expected more guards, or blood-hungry vampires. They're watching us." He didn't look around, just quiet about it. "That's not comforting." Lucienne gave a dry smile. "It's not meant to be." They passed under a crumbling stone archway where sidles glowed faintly in the frost, an ancient protection rune, Evelyn guessed, though the shape twisted as she looked at it too long. Beyond the gate, the path curved toward a low, sprawling fortress of pale stone carved directly into the mountainside. No towers, no banners, just sheer walls, slit windows, and heavy iron doors. Vanderguard was not a clan of flourishes. 2 guards emerged from the mist, long cloaks trailing behind them. Their eyes were silver, emotionals as, their skin paler than Lucienne's. One raised a hand. "Halt, state your business." Lucienne stepped forward. "Lucienne Ashthorne, escorting a guest under council treaty." The guards exchanged a look, then opened the gates without a word. Inside, the temperature dropped even lower. Torches lined the corridor but gave no warmth, just blue light and shadow. Evelyn's breath fogged the air. The walls pulsed faintly with arcane energy, making the hair on her arms rise. Her boots echoed against smooth stone as they were led deeper into the mountain. They entered a vast hall lined with statues. Unlike Ashthorne's gilded opulence or Gravemoor's bone and obsidian style, Vanderguard's aesthetic was austere cold beauty carved from restraint. Each figure was faceless, but Evelyn felt their presence nonetheless. "They're warding spirits," Lucienne whispered beside her, "meant to bear witness." "To what?" "Whatever comes next." At the end of the hall, a woman waited. She sat on a stone bench beside a brazier that burned silver white. Her hair was dark and sleek, her skin luminous, her frame draped in heavy robes embroidered with glyphs. She did not rise, but her presence filled the room like a storm cloud. "Lucienne," she said. Her voice was calm and sharp as winter. "Vivian," Lucienne answered with a stiff nod. She turned her gaze to Evelyn. "So," she said, "you're the abomination." Evelyn froze. "Vivian," Lucienne said, voice low with warning. Vivian ignored him. She stood and crossed the chamber with gliding grace, stopping just before Evelyn. She studied her with unsettling stillness, like a scientist inspecting a broken instrument. "You shouldn't exist." Evelyn held her ground. "And yet I do." Vivian's lips twitched. "I can see why he likes you." Lucienne tensed. "Enough. We came under peace." Vivian turned, gliding back to her brazier. "I know why you came. The bone of Cain." Evelyn stepped forward. "Will you give it to us?" Vivian's eyes glittered. "Do you even know what it is?" "It's one of the 3 artifacts that can stabilize my soul," Evelyn said. "Or split it completely, depending on what mood fate's in." Vivian chuckled. "A poet. Elvira never had humor." "I'm not her." "No, but her scent clings to you." Vivian's voice cooled. "The bone of Cain is sacred. It binds truth to blood, reveals the root of any lie. And it does not respond to unclean souls." "I passed the cinder trial," Evelyn said. "That was a trial of instinct." Vivian walked toward a glass case near the wall. Inside, resting on black velvet, lay a small bone carved with hundreds of runes. "This is a trial of blood." Lucienne stepped in. "You've always wanted her tested." Vivian's smile sharpened. "I'm simply curious." She shouldn't be possible. And yet, here she stands. A werewolf who was once a vampire noble. A living paradox. Evelyn walked toward the case. "So what do I have to do?" Vivian raised a delicate brow. "You must bleed upon it. That's it." Vivian's voice turned soft and cruel. "It will show you the truth of your birth. If you can survive it." Lucienne's hand found her arm. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Evelyn looked him in the eye. "No more guessing. No more fragments. If I'm going to save myself, I need to know who I really am." Vivian gestured, then stepped forward. The case opened without touch. The bone of Cain hovered mid-air, pulsing faintly with ancient light. Evelyn took the dagger offered to her by one of the silent attendants, and with a deep breath cut her palm. She extended it over the artifact. A single drop fell. Time stopped. The chamber fell away, and she fell into memory. A cradle of moonlight. A woman scream her mother. No, someone else. And a voice, male, commanding. "Split the soul, seal the rest." She saw 2 infants. One cloaked in light, the other in shadow. Someone tore them apart. One was given to wolves, the other to the Ashthorne clan. No. Evelyn gasped. The bone blazed red. Fire filled her mind. She saw Vivian, holding an infant. Saw Lucienne, years younger, peering into a cradle with sorrow. And then a name. Val, standing beside a grave. His own mother's grave, whispering sister. The bone dropped. Evelyn collapsed. Lucienne caught her. Vivian stared, jaw clenched. What did you see? He whispered. Evelyn looked up, eyes burning. I was born from both bloodlines, she said hoarsely. Elvira didn't die the way they said. Her soul was split. And she touched her chest. I'm not just her reincarnation. I'm her child. Silence pressed down like a tomb. Evelyn's heartbeat still roared in her ears as the bone of Cain dimmed, dropping lifelessly into the velvet-lined box. Her blood still glistened on its runes though the artifact had grown cold. Across the chamber, Vivian stood perfectly still, lips parted in something between awe and calculation. Lucienne hadn't moved either, but tension thrummed in every line of his body. Only Evelyn's shaking breath stirred the still air. I'm her child, she whispered again. Elvira's. Vivian's gaze flickered, sharpened. Impossible. You saw it too, Evelyn said. She bore two twins. One soul split across two vessels. I saw a ritual. Amen in reed robes. A split sealed in blood. Lucienne's eyes darkened. You think it was Emmett? No. Evelyn's voice grew steadier, stronger. He wasn't there, but someone from Ashthorne was. I heard them say it seal her, send the other to the wolves. Vivian finally stepped forward. Her composure was still intact but her voice trembled faintly at the edges. Elvira died without a child. That is fact. No. Evelyn stood, wiping her bloodied palm on her cloak. That's the lie. The child lived. She just didn't stay in Ashthorne. She was smuggled away. Lucienne's voice dropped. To keep her from becoming a pawn. Vivian's silver eyes narrowed. And now she returns with a wolf's form and vampire blood. A threat to every house. Evelyn looked her in the eye. I didn't ask to be born this way, but I'm not going to apologize for surviving it. Lucienne stepped beside her. You've been hiding this, he said to Vivian, haven't you? Vivian didn't flinch. I knew there was a child, but no name, no fate. The knowledge was buried by your father and mine. Why? To stop war, she said, to bury a scandal. Elvira was supposed to marry into Gravemoor. Instead, she fell for you, a political betrayal that threatened centuries of balance. When she vanished, the clans grieved. When word came of her death, peace held only because no one knew of the child. Lucienne's voice chilled. So they killed the truth. They locked it away, Vivian corrected, and divided the soul to ensure it would never rise again. Evelyn's hands clenched. And yet here I am. Vivian turned, walking slowly back to the brazier. You carry the blood of both worlds. That makes you dangerous. To everyone. Lucienne moved protectively between them. She also carries hope. Vivian looked over her shoulder. Or the blade that severs what little peace we have. For a long beat, no one spoke. Then Evelyn stepped forward. Give me the bone. I earned it. Vivian studied her for a long moment. Then without a word he turned and unlocked the glass case. She placed the bone in a velvet pouch and extended it with a steady hand. Evelyn took it. The moment her fingers closed around it, a soft tremor pulsed in the air. Not a threat, but a warning. The bone of Cain knew her now, and it would not suffer lies. We leave at dawn, Lucienne said, his voice firm. Vivian raised a brow. You'll be hunted. We already are. Vivian's gaze flicked to Evelyn. You saw him, didn't you? Evelyn froze. Who? The boy in the graveyard, Vivian said quietly. Val. Evelyn blinked. You know? Vivian's voice lost all sharpness. He's the other half of the soul. The twin. We all thought he died at birth. No. Evelyn swallowed hard. He's alive. And he's my brother. Lucienne exhaled slowly. That changes everything. Vivian nodded. He won't come to you willingly. He serves Gravemoor with ice in his veins and duty in his marrow. But if the truth reaches him, she trailed off. If we don't reach him first, Evelyn finished. Vivian turned back to the brazier. Go take what you've learned, but be warned if Emmett discovers you hold to relics he will not wait for a blood moon to strike. Lucienne's eyes met Evelyn's. Then, we'll be faster. They left before the sky turned fully blue. The bone of Cain lay tucked beside the moonstone, both pulsing faintly like sleeping hearts in Evelyn's satchel. She felt heavier now, not from the relics but from knowledge, from truth. Lucienne didn't speak for miles. Finally, Evelyn said, You knew her, Elvira, better than anyone. Did you ever suspect she had a child? He shook his head. She told me she loved me. That was the last truth I heard before she vanished. If she had known she was with child, she would have told you, Evelyn finished. Lucienne nodded. Or she was never given the chance. They paused near a stream to rest. Evelyn sat beside a frost-covered stone, watching the water shimmer in the light. She was brave, she murmured. She was fire. Lucienne looked at her. But you're the storm that follows. She smiled faintly. Storms tear things apart, only so they can be rebuilt. She looked at him, and for a breathless second, something shifted, not between Evelyn and Lucy, but within Evelyn. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of Elvira's shadow. She stood in it, and it felt like home. Chapter 6 Shadow to Shadow. The road to Gravemoor was made of silence. Not the gentle quiet of forests or the watchful stillness of Vanderguard halls, but a hollow kind of hush, like the world itself had swallowed its voice in grief. Trees gave way to twisted stone cliffs, their jagged edges reaching toward a sky painted the color of old bruises. Mist seeped up from the ground in sluggish coils, thick with the scent of damp oil and something metallic like rust or blood. Evelyn tightened her grip on the reins of the dusk walker Lucienne had summoned for here a lean black horse with gleaming crimson eyes and a mane that shimmered like ink under starlight. She hadn't asked how he'd conjured the beast, but it hadn't bitten her yet, so that was a win. Lucienne rode beside her, his eyes scanning the path ahead. He was tense again, though this time it wasn't because of her. It was the land. Even he, a vampire raised in war, respected Gravemoor soil. The soul stones kept in the ash crypt, he said, breaking the silence, hidden deep beneath Gravemoor's ancestral tombs. Evelyn frowned. Fitting. They say the stone absorbs echoes. The last breath of anyone who dies nearby clings to it for eternity. She glanced at him. Is that a metaphor? Lucienne didn't answer. They crossed a broken bridge that arched over a chasm filled with thick fog. As they passed, Evelyn swore she saw shapes moving within it, figures with long limbs and hollow eyes. She looked away. The first grave markers appeared soon after. Slabs of obsidian carved into grotesque forms, wolves with broken teeth, women weeping blood, men impaled by trees. Most were shattered, others still bled faint light from runes etched into their surface. And then the gates appeared. Two enormous statues flanked the entrance to Gravemoor territory, guardian effigies of chained beasts with serpent tails and skulls for faces. Between them, a black iron gate stood half open, rusted but still humming faintly with warding magic. Lucienne dismounted and gestured for her to do the same. They'll sense us the moment we pass through, he said. Evelyn swallowed. Val? And the rest of the High Guard. He gave her a steady look. You don't run. You don't provoke. Let me speak until you must. She nodded. They stepped through together. Cold air pressed against her like a shroud. Inside, the landscape had changed entirely. Gravemoor was not a city, it was an acropolis. A kingdom of mausoleums and catacombs, towers of bone and crypts carved into hillsides. Stone buildings stood like forgotten sentinels, lit only by eerie blue lanterns that never flickered. The scent of ash and incense clung to everything. And standing at the heart of it all, before a long staircase that led down into the earth, was a lone figure in black. He wore no armor, no insignia, just a dark robe trimmed in silver, and a circlet of bone on his brow. His hair was white as salt, falling to his shoulders. His skin was pale like all vampires, but colder, and touched by lighter warmth. He looked about Lucienne's age, but older somehow, timeless. Val or Gravemoor. His eyes steel grail and on Evelyn like the edge of a blade. I was told you would come, he said softly, and yet, I did not believe it until now. Lucienne inclined his head. Lord Gravemoor, spare me the politics. Val's gaze didn't leave Evelyn. You brought her to die, didn't you? No, Lucienne said, voice sharp. To live. Val took a slow step forward. She reeks of shadow and starlight, wolf and vampire. She is unfinished. Evelyn stepped beside Lucienne. I'm more finished than most. A faint twitch passed through Val's lips. It might have been the ghost of a smile or a warning. I saw you once, he said, in a dream, when I was a child. A girl with my face, my eyes. I thought it was madness. Evelyn's throat tightened. It wasn't. No. Val said. It was memory. She moved closer. You saw the same thing I did, didn't you? The soul ritual. The man in reed. The grave. Val looked away. Vivian sent you. No, I came because I needed the soul stone. Her voice trembled. And because I needed you. That got his attention. He stepped closer. The wind stirred the hem of his cloak. Why? Because you're my brother. The words echoed in the deathly stillness like thunder. Lucien said nothing. He let the silence sit. Val or blinked. His face didn't change, but something behind his eyes shattered. I knew, he whispered. Somewhere I always knew. Evelyn swallowed. Do you hate me for existing? Val, or looked up sharply. No, but I hate the ones who made you into this. He turned on his heel. Come, he said. If you want the soul stone, you'll find it where all souls go beneath the ash crypt. Lucien moved beside her. Are we walking into a trap? Val or answered without looking back. Of course you are. The descent into the ash crypt was a journey into stillness. Evelyn followed Val or and Lucien down narrow stone steps, their footfalls echoing against the bone-lined walls. Sconces flickered with ghost fire blue flames without heat, casting wavering shadows across the carvings etched deep into the crypt's heart. Wolves entwined with serpents, bleeding suns, and the same rune she had seen before, 3 slashes over a circle, the mark of soul binding. The deeper they went, the thicker the air became. It pressed into her lungs like memory, not grief, not fear, but something older, like waiting. She ran her hand along the wall to steady herself. It's loud down here. Lucien glanced back. The soul stones drawing you in. Val or didn't stop walking. This place was carved for one purpose, to hold echoes. Every secret, every betrayal. Its taste lingers. Evelyn's fingers twitched over the bone pouch at her side. The bone of Cain hummed softly in response, as if recognizing kin. Finally, the stairs ended in a domed chamber lit only by the light of a single crystal embedded in the ceiling. Beneath it sat a pedestal made of black stone, and on it, cradled in metal claws, rested a perfectly round gem the color of blood diluted in milk, the soul stone. Evelyn stepped forward, heart thundering. It pulsed once. The chamber vibrated faintly, a note so low she could feel it in her bones. Her feet moved of their own accord. When her fingers touched the stone, warmth flared against her skin, and the world fell away. She stood in the center of a vast ballroom of white stone. It shimmered with candlelight and roses. Hundreds of nobles danced in silence, their faces hollow, eyeless. Only one figure moved with intent: Elvira. Her silver hair was pinned high, her eyes sharp with fury. She held a bloodied blade in her hand. She turned, looked directly at Evelyn. Watch. Evelyn could only obey. The vision shifted. The ballroom shattered like glass and reformed as a war chamber. Elvira stood before 3 elders: Lanty Ashthorne, Vanderguard, and Roderick Gravemoor. Between them lay a scroll, sealed with blood and bone. If you do this, Lanty said, you will doom your house. I don't care, Elvira spat. I won't let my child become a weapon. Valia's voice was cold. Then she must be hidden. She must be split, Lantier said. You cannot raise her as one. Evelyn gasped as she watched her past self, a baby, swaddled in silver and black, cradled in Elvira's arms. The spell circle shimmered. Lucien, young, anguished, stood just outside the ring. Elvira turned to him. I'm sorry. He stepped forward. I'll protect her. No, Elvira said, voice breaking. If you love me, let me go. The vision whispered again. Elvira screamed as light enveloped her child. A second infant appeared, Val or. The spell fractured her soul, splitting it in two. And then, steel, blood. Elvira collapsed, a dagger in her back. Evelyn's scream shattered the memory. She awoke on her knees, gasping. The soul stone still pulsed beneath her hand, but dimmer now. Her palm bled. Her eyes burned with tears. Lucien caught her shoulders. What did you see? She looked at him, voice hoarse. She tried to protect me. She split herself to keep us safe. You were there. You wanted to help. He was silent, jaw locked. Val or stood a few feet away, his face pale and unreadable. Imid killed her, Evelyn whispered. After the ritual, he made it look like she vanished. Val or didn't move. Then it's time the lie ended. Evelyn picked up the soul stone. It no longer pulsed, but it watched her. Now, she had all 3, the moonstone, the bone of Cain, and the soul stone. The ritual could begin. Lucien met her gaze. Are you ready? Her hand trembled, but she nodded. Yes, let's end this. Chapter 7: What the Heart Forgets. They returned to Hollow Grove under moonlight. Evelyn stood at the edge of the ancient glade, the soul stone in one hand, the moonstone and bone of Cain secured beneath her cloak. The 3 relics pulsed in unison, each drawing upon her presence like moths circling flame. Her breath misted in the cool night air, every inhale laced with magic. The ritual would happen tonight, 12 days since the blood moon's rise. 12 days since she'd woken in a stranger's world, torn between bloodlines and ghosts. Now she was both and more. Lucienne paced near the runestone, eyes narrowed in thought. Val, or stood in the shadows beyond the arching trees, arms crossed, silent as ever. Their truce was uneasy, but it held. For now, Matra the oracle knelt in the center of the ritual circle, inscribing the final glyphs into the moss with chalk made of bone dust and moon water. Her blindfold fluttered as if it saw more than any eye ever could. When the three relics align, she intoned, the soul will find its home. But beware should the vessel fracture, neither Elvira or Evelyn shall remain. Evelyn swallowed, so no pressure. Matra smiled faintly, only fate. She stepped back, arms lifted to the stars. Let it begin. Evelyn stepped into the circle, barefoot, cloak discarded. The ground hummed beneath her. The stones lit up one by one, blue for the moonstone, crimson for the bone of Cain, silver for the soul stone. Lucien remained at the circle's edge, his fists clenched, watching like a soldier preparing to lose something he couldn't bear to live without. I'm with you, he said softly. I know, she whispered, but just as Matra began the chant, a gust of wind tore through the grove, and with it came a voice. Well, isn't this romantic? Everyone turned. Lily Unvexy stepped from the shadows like a blade drawn from silk. She wore Ashthorne black embroidered with crimson thorns, her long cloak billowing behind her like spilled ink. Her eyes glittered, feral with something too wild to be grief, too desperate to be love. Evelyn's breath caught. You shouldn't be here. Oh, I absolutely should, Lillian said sweetly. You're trying to steal what's mine. Lucien stepped forward. Lily and Aunt. But Lillian's gaze never left Evelyn. You were supposed to die in the streets, like a dog, but instead you stole his eyes, his heart, his past. I didn't ask for any of this, Evelyn snapped. No, Lillian hissed, but you took it anyway. She raised a small vial, glass and obsidian. Inside, dark liquid swirled like ink in water. The tears of image, she said, distilled soul venom. One drop, and the circle collapses. The ritual fails, and you darling shatter. Lucien moved fast as a storm, but Lillian was faster. She hurled the vial. It struck the edge of the circle, and the world screamed. Light exploded. The stones pulsed out of sequence. The glyphs crackled with black flame. Evelyn fell to her knees as agony lanced through her skull. The soul stone flared blinding, cold. The moonstone surged with heat. Matra shouted something in a tongue older than time. Val or moved to intercept Lillian, but she vanished into shadow, laughing. And then, Evelyn's body convulsed. Elvira surged forward. She was no longer just a memory. She was inside. And this time she didn't ask for permission. Evelyn stood in a mirror. Or maybe Elvira did. Their bodies flickered like candlelight, phasing in and out of one another. Evelyn's reflection wavered with silver hair and violet eyes. Elvira's lips moved, but Evelyn heard her own voice. I'm not ready, she whispered. You never were, Elvira replied, but it's too late now. Evelyn clutched her chest. If you take over, what happens to me? We merge, Elvira said simply, or we die. Not good options. They're all we have. Light tore through the space, silver, gold, blood red, and from the center of the mirror, Evelyn saw Lucien's face. I'm here, he whispered. Come back to me. The image steadied. The storm inside her stilled, and Evelyn stepped forward, into herself. Her eyes opened. The ritual circle still burned. Matra lay unconscious beside the shattered runes. Lucien knelt beside her, his hands covered in glowing dust. Val stood, cloak torn, blade unsheathed, but the threat was gone. Lillian had vanished. Evelyn? Lucien asked, voice shaking. She blinked, sat up. I'm still me, she rasped. Lucien exhaled, clutching her hand. She smiled faintly. But I'm also Elvira. His eyes widened. You remember everything. Memories bloomed behind her eyes, soft gardens, political chambers, kisses in shadowed halls, and death. Gods, the death. I love you, she whispered, and I always have. Lucien leaned in, forehead to hers. Then we're not done yet. Evelyn stood at the edge of the ruined ritual circle, her heartbeat echoing like drum fire in her ears. She felt it, all of it, not just her own memories, her own thoughts, but the echo of another life woven through her bones like ancient silk. Elvira wasn't a voice in the dark anymore. She was here, present, not haunting but part of her. And yet, she was still Evelyn. Her breath trembled. I feel full. Lucien, beside her, studied her with careful awe. Do you remember everything? Evelyn nodded slowly. Your face the night we first danced, the ring I hid in the Ashthorne garden, the way I screamed when Emma drove the blade into my spine." Her voice cracked. "I remember the pain." Lucienne looked down. "I swore I'd never let it happen again." "And now?" she asked. "Now that I'm her?" He reached for her hand. "You were always you. Now you just remember who else you've been." Evelyn held onto him like an anchor. "I can feel her anger, Lucienne. Her grief. It's in my veins." "Good," said a voice behind them. "You'll need it." Val approached, sheathed in shadows and snow. His expression was grim. "Matra is unconscious. The circle's corrupted. If Lillian had hit her mark, the soul stone would have shattered." "She was working for someone," Evelyn said. "She had soul venom, Imid's venom." Lucien's face darkened. "He knows the ritual was nearing completion. He must have sent her to sabotage it." Val gave a terse nod. "Then he'll move openly now. The balance is broken. The moment you remembered who you were, Evelyn, you became dangerous." Evelyn rose, stronger now. "Then we strike first." Lucy, and hesitated. "You want to go back into Ashthorne?" "Not to reclaim a throne," she said. "To expose the truth." Val raised a brow. "How do you plan to convince vampires raised on fear and myth to accept a werewolf-born hybrid as the child of Elvira Nightbloom?" "I show them," Evelyn said. She stepped into the broken circle, crouched beside the soul stone, and pressed it to her chest. A pulse of light flared. Visions bloomed across the glade, projected like living memories: Elvira's death, the birth ritual, Imid's betrayal, the child torn into. Images shimmered above them, flickering ghosts from the past rendered in blood-lightened memory. Lucienne inhaled sharply. "You're channeling the soul stone's echoes." "It's part of me now," Evelyn whispered. "All of it is." The last vision showed Lucienne cradling Elvira's body, his face bloodied, devastated. Then another Evelyn as a child howling beneath the full moon. And finally Evelyn now, standing beneath the blood moon. "Oh." The memory faded. Silence followed. Val was the first to speak. "That will be enough." Lucienne turned to Evelyn. "You'll be seen as a heretic." "Then, let them see," she said. But before they could speak further, the trees rustled. A vampire scout staggered into the grove, cloak shredded, blood trailing down his arm. He collapsed to one knee before Val, eyes wide with terror. "Imid has moved," he gasped. "He's rallied Ashthorne loyalists. The Gravemoor southern hold fell last night. Vanderguard has declared neutrality." Val's eyes narrowed. "And the capital, Siege D. He rides under the banner of unity. Says he seeks to reclaim the rightful heir." Lucienne's voice was ice. "He's using Elvira's name." Evelyn clenched her fists. "He's going to put someone else on the throne." "No," Val said. "He's going to place himself on it, and rule through fear." Lucienne looked at Evelyn. "He'll strike next at the hollow fangs, to destroy the last pack that remembers your bloodline." "We have to stop him," Evelyn said. "And we will," Lucienne replied, "but not with secrets, not with shadows." Val stepped forward. "You want peace? Then you must go to the Ashthorne spire. You must claim your name." Evelyn's heart thundered. "I'll be hunted." "Not if you walk in under truce," Lucienne said. Evelyn met their eyes. Lucienne. Val. To halves of the truth. "I won't hide anymore," she said. She stepped out of the grove, her cloak swirling behind her. "I am Evelyn Cross." The moon shifted. "And I am Elvira Nightbloom reborn." Chapter 8: The Throne of Thorns. The Ashthorne spire rose like a spear of bone from the blackened hills, tall, narrow, and draped in banners as red as blood. Its jagged towers pierced the clouded sky, every stone steeped in centuries of conquest and cold elegance. Once, it had been Evelyn's prison in another life. Now, it was her battlefield. She stood before its iron gates, wrapped in a new cloak once sewn hastily by hollow fang weavers, lined in silver thread and marked with the sigil of the Nightbloom line, a crescent moon cradling a bleeding rose. Lucienne stood at her right, armor gleaming darkly beneath his coat, the hilt of his ancestral blade visible over his shoulder. Val flanked her left, an armadur but more dangerous for it, his pale eyes scanning the ramparts for archers. "They know we're coming," Lucienne said. "Good," Evelyn replied. "I want them to watch." The gates opened slowly, groaning under centuries of weight. The court awaited. She passed beneath the archway into the high chamber, her boots clicking against obsidian stone. Vampires lined the galleries, elders, advisors, blood nobles, and inquisitors silent as statues. Their eyes burned, some with recognition, some with disbelief, a few with thinly veiled fear. At the head of the chamber, beneath the gilded crest of the Ashthorne line, sat elder Emmett. He hadn't aged, tall, lean, and elegant in a high-collared robe of crimson and black, his silver hair slicked back, his expression the same as she remembered from 100 lifetimes ago, beautiful, smug, and utterly devoid of warmth. He stood as she approached the dais. He said, voice like velvet over glass, the ghost returns. Tell me, dear girl, do you come to haunt us, or to beg for a name? I come to reclaim it, Evelyn said. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Emmett's smile widened. You speak with such confidence for a child of dirt and fur. Lucienne stepped forward. Watch your words. Why? Emmett asked coolly. Because you once loved her mother? Or because you fear what she might be? Val, or spoke then. You fear what she already is. Emmett's eyes flicked to Val, the lost twin. How poetic. Gravemoor's bastard and Elvira's abomination walking hand in hand. Evelyn stepped forward, silencing the court with a single look. I am not an abomination, she said, voice ringing through the hall. I am Evelyn Cross, born of 2 bloods, forged by pain, chosen by the moon, and rightful heir to Elvira's line. The sidles on the walls flickered. The court fell silent. Emmett chuckled. Lovely theatrics. But bloodlines mean little without proof. Evelyn removed the pouch from her belt. One by one, she placed the relics on the altar stone, the moonstone still glowing with wild power, the bone of Cain, etched in truth, the soul stone, pulsing softly with echoes of memory. Then she pressed her palm to each, releasing a shimmer of her own blood into the air. Magic surged. Visions bloomed into the chamber. Elvira's memories, the ritual of the soul split, the murder beneath the moonlight, all played out for the court to see. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some clutched their chests, others looked away, and Emmett froze. He couldn't speak, because the final vision showed him blade in hand, standing over Elvira's body. Evelyn stepped away from the altar. You told them she vanished, that she fled. But you murdered her. I did what was necessary, Emmett snarled. She defied the council. She defiled our legacy. You feared her power, Evelyn said, just as you fear mine now. He drew his blade. The court didn't stop him. Lucienne moved to shield Evelyn, but she raised a hand. No, she said, let him try. Emmett rushed her. She didn't flinch. As the blade descended, Evelyn raised her palm glowing with moonfire and caught the steel in midair. The sword shattered. Magic surged from her like a wave, rippling through the chamber, extinguishing every torch. When the flames returned, Evelyn stood tall, eyes burning violet. I am not Elvira, she said. I am something more. Emmett fell to one knee, coughing blood. Lucienne stepped forward. You have ruled through lies and fear long enough. Val, or added coldly, you face judgment. The court erupted. Elders began to rise. Some fled, others knelt. And in the storm of voices, Evelyn turned to Lucienne. Now, she said, we change everything. The high chamber trembled. Evelyn stood amidst a storm of raised voices and cracked loyalties. Half the court had risen from their stone thrones, some shouting, others fleeing, many simply stunned into silence. The shattered pieces of Emmett's blade still steamed on the floor. Magic stirred in the walls. The ancient wards of Ashthorne spire strained under the weight of prophecy returned, and Evelyn, heart pounding, so lay light, met it all with steady eyes. Lucienne stood at her side, a silent sentinel, hand still hovering near his hilt. Val, or moved behind them, eyes sweeping the gallery, calculating who would draw first blood. Emmett had not moved. He remained kneeling, coughing softly, the edges of his lips stained with blood, but the fury in his eyes burned as bright as ever. You think one spectacle makes you queen? You think fire and memory will turn them to your side? I think Ruth already has, Evelyn answered. A voice rose from the gallery, an elder with silver skin and gold-ringed eyes. I saw the memory. I saw her face. Her blood is Nightbloom. She's not only vampire, another hissed. She reeks of wolves. She carries the soul of Elvira. She carries the end of our world. Lucienne stepped forward. Enough. The chamber stilled. Lucienne's voice rang old as iron. You all sit here, cloaked in tradition, as your world crumbles beneath you. Ashthorne bleeds while you whisper behind masks. He turned to the court, arms outstretched. You want a throne of blood, or a future? Murmurs rippled through the crowd again, but this time uncertain. The line had been drawn, and everyone knew it. Then Emmett rose. Though he swayed slightly, the air around him thickened with shadow. His eyes gleamed crimson, and when he spoke, it echoed through the stones themselves. You would hand our legacy to a mongrel and a traitor. Lucienne's hand twitched near his blade. I'd rather die on my knees beside her, he said, than stand with you. Emmett smiled, a twisted, terrible thing. Then, you shall. With a snap of his fingers, a hidden ward flared across the ceiling, and from the corners of the chamber, Ashthorne enforcers emerged cloaked in red and black, their faces masked, blades already drawn. Evelyn moved instinctively, reaching for the relics at her side. The soul stone pulsed violently, reacting to danger. The bone of Cain hummed in warning. And the moonstone, it glowed like a second heart in her palm. Protect her, Lucienne barked to Val. Try not to die, Val, or muttered. Then chaos erupted. Enforcers lunged from both sides. Magic ignited in blue and crimson streaks across the chamber. One leapt toward Evelyn, fangs bared, blade raised, but was caught mid-air by a blast of moonfire that hurled him backward, shattering a column. Evelyn's fingers tingled. Her powers were no longer passive. They surged under bade her will. She cast her hand forward again, splitting the stone floor with a pulse that sent 3 more attackers crashing backward. Lucienne, she called, but he was already engaged blade with a high-ranking enforcer, their clash ringing like thunder. Blood splattered across the banners. Another figure came at him from behind, Val, or intercepted, slamming the attacker into the wall with bone-breaking precision. Evelyn arched left as a spell scorched the ground where she'd stood. She turned and found herself face to face with Lillian Vexley. Of course, her former rival stood calm amidst the chaos, blood blooming on her lip like a rose. Her eyes gleamed with manic fire. Still not dead? Lillian cooed. Evelyn raised her hand. You really need to let go. You took everything from me. You never had him. Lillian lunged. Their magic clashed midair, sending both staggering back. Evelyn summoned the moonstone, channeling her fury into its core. Light burst from her hands and Lillian screamed, vanishing into the smoke. Lucienne reached Evelyn's side. She won't stop, Evelyn gasped. None of them will. Then we stop him. Emmett, still standing at the dais, still untouched. He raised his hands and the ground itself began to quake. You are not worthy, he bellowed. You are not her. You are nothing but the accident of war. No, Evelyn said. And what comes after the war? She charged. Moonfire licked at her heels. Her blood sang. But Emmett was ready. He summoned a dagger, not steel, but bone, ashen, and ancient. The last blade of the soul binders. Lucy-Anne shouted Evelyn, wait. But it was too late. Emmett stabbed the blade toward her chest, and Lucy-Anne stepped between them. The dagger pierced flesh. Lucy-Anne gasped. The world stopped. No. Evelyn screamed. Lucy-Anne collapsed to the ground, eyes wide, blood blooming beneath his coat. The relics dropped from Evelyn's hands, and her scream was not human. Chapter 9 Blood Moon Rising. Lucy-Anne collapsed at her feet. The dagger still jutted from his side to deep, to clean, glowing faintly with soul-binding runes. His blood spilled fast, pooling like ink across the marble floor, soaking into the Ashthorne crest carved beneath them, red on black, the symbol of everything she was trying to end. Evelyn couldn't breathe. The world blurred, sounds muffled beneath the thunder in her chest. She dropped to her knees beside him. Lucienne, she whispered. No, stay with me. Please stay. His eyes fluttered open, hazy with pain. He tried to speak. She took his hand and pressed it to her heart. You're not leaving me. I just got you back. I won't let. Emmett stepped forward, his expression smug and cold. Poetic, isn't it? The son dies for the ghost of his father's ruin. Evelyn looked up. Something in her broke, not cracked, shattered. The relics at her side pulsed, first the bone of Cain, then the moonstone. The soul stone split open in her satchel, leaking light like liquid memory. Her scream tore through the chamber like a rift in the veil between worlds. It wasn't a human sound. It wasn't even Elvira's. It was something older. The court fell silent. Magic surged from her body in waves, blinding, raw, and absolute. Every window in the chamber shattered. The torches flickered out. The ash-gray banners twisted like writhing serpents. Then came the transformation. But it wasn't like before, not like that first agonizing shift in the forest when her body didn't yet know what it was. Now it remembered. Now it claimed. Her skin shimmered silver, then deepened into fur shot through with veins of moonlight. Her bones stretched but painlessly like a coat slipping into place. Her eyes burned violet. Her claws glowed faintly white. She stood taller than any wolf, nearly 3 meters her from both beast and something divine. The she-wolf of Elaria, long lost, long feared, now returned. The vampires fell back in horror. even Val, or stepped away, odd awning in his normally unreadable eyes. Imid raised his hands to cast, but Evelyn lunged. She moved faster than thought, her claws slamming into the stone days. Imid barely dodged, his spell flying wild, tearing through a column. Evelyn followed, swiping at his chest. He leapt back, casting a shield of blood around himself, but it faltered beneath the sheer force of her presence. You were nothing before her, Evelyn snarled, her voice a low, unnatural growl that echoed into tones hers and Elvira's, and you'll be less than nothing now. Imid bared his fangs and flung a bolt of necrotic fire. She leapt through it, the shield cracked. He fell. She stood over him, claws poised, the moonstone glowing in the fur at her throat. Do it, Imid hissed. Kill me. Finish what Elvira couldn't. Evelyn paused. The old Evelyn, modern Evelyn, human Evelyn flickered behind the rage. She looked at Lucienne, pale on the floor. She looked at Val, or watching her with cautious hope, and she remembered. Elvira had died fighting for peace, not revenge. Evelyn lowered her claw. No, she said, but I will make sure you never hold power again. She turned to the court. To all of you, listen. I am not your queen. I am not your enemy. I am the bridge, the soul that walks both paths. The bone of Cain rose in the air, glowing red. I carry truth in my blood. The soul stone joined it, glowing silver. I carry memory in my soul. Then the moonstone lit the chamber in white fire. And I carry power no house can tame. She stepped back toward Lucienne, who stirred weakly. She knelt, cradled his head, pressed her brow to his. I'm here, she whispered. He opened his eyes, and smiled. Barely. You've changed, he rasped. She laughed, wet, shaking. You always said I looked good in moonlight. The relics hovered above them like stars, and the blood moon began to rise. The moon outside had turned red. Not the rust red of a fading autumn or the pale glow of harvest, but a deep, seething crimson that poured over the Ashthorne spire like spilled wine. It bathed every stone, every shard of glass, every flickering soul in its war-born light. Inside the high chamber, the dust had begun to settle. The enforcers who survived now knelt in silence. Several nobles had fled. Others remained in stunned reverence, watching the girl who had risen from history's ashes, who had become myth. Lucienne lay beside Evelyn, pale but alive, thanks to Val, or swift, silent application of a blood-binding salve. The dagger wound had missed his heart barely. He gripped her hand like it was his only tether to the world. Evelyn, still in her half-shifted form, her eyes glowing with power, looked up at the council days. Imid was gone, dragged away in silence by the few loyalists who remained. His fate would be decided by exile, or worse. But the greater choice now rested with her. The three relics hovered in the air above her, still the moonstone, the bone of Cain, and the soul stone, bound to her, humming with her blood, her magic, her legacy. Matra's voice echoed faintly in her mind. When the three align, the soul will find its home. She had aligned them. She had reclaimed her soul. But now the court waited for one final act. Take the throne, one elder whispered from the gallery. Rebuild the tri-clan accord. You've earned it, another said. You are the blood of Nightbloom and Ashthorne both. Lead us, murmured a third. Evelyn stood slowly, cloak sweeping behind her like wings of smoke. Her gaze swept the court not as a girl, or even as Elvira, but as someone reborn. I did not come to wear a crown, she said. I came to stop a war. You ended Imid, said a voice near the front. But the clans are broken. Vanderguard stands silent. Gravemoor is splintering. The hollow fangs prepare for siege. Who will speak for peace, if not you? Evelyn closed her eyes. For a moment she felt it, the weight of the spire behind her, the scent of ancient stone, the weight of magic waiting to her command. The throne wasn't just a seat, it was a symbol, one that could unite or destroy. She turned to Lucienne. I didn't survive this to become another tyrant, she said softly. If I take that throne, I become everything I swore I'd fight. His fingers tightened around hers. Then don't take it alone. She looked up at Val. He met her gaze, nodded once. She turned back to the court. Let the throne remain empty, she declared. Let it be a council, not a crown. Once eat for each clan, one voice for each bloodline. We do not need another ruler. We need each other. Gasps rippled across the room, but no one interrupted. Evelyn stepped away from the dais. I will not lead you, she said, but I will stand beside those who choose to lead with justice. She held out her hand, to Vanderguard, to Gravemoor, to the wolves, even to the humans who do not yet know what stirs in their shadows. Lucienne pulled himself upright beside her. Let this be the end of blood feuds born in darkness. Val or added voice like frost, let this be the beginning of something new. Silence. Then, one elder stepped forward, kneeled, then another, and another, until the court bowed not to a queen, but to a survivor who had forged peace from the grave of war. That night, as the moon hung heavy and reed, Evelyn stood on the highest balcony of the spire, watching the world shift. Lucien joined her, his coat wrapped around his still healing torso. Are you sure you don't want it? He asked. The crown? The power? Evelyn looked at him. I have power, but I'd rather spend it healing than conquering. He smiled faintly. Then maybe we have a chance. She leaned into him. Do you think it'll last? He was quiet a long time. No, he said honestly, not forever. There will always be those who fear what they don't understand. Like me, like us. He turned to her, but maybe that's why we stay. To remind them peace is still worth fighting for. She smiled. Somewhere deep inside her, Elvira stirred not as a ghost, but as a memory, a part of her. And Evelyn Wolf, vampire, human, daughter, weapon, woman stood taller. Not finished, but finally whole. Chapter 10. The Path Between Worlds. The hollow fang woods were quiet, not silent but calm, the kind of hush that came after a storm had passed, when the trees stood taller, and the wind felt like breath instead of warning. The crimson leaves whispered overhead, and Evelyn walked beneath them barefoot, cloak trailing behind her, hair unbound and wild. It felt right, coming back here, to where it all began, to where the human Evelyn Cross had howled beneath the moon and woken up in a world that had no name for what she was. Lucien followed a few steps behind her, still healing, but whole enough to argue, though he hadn't said much since they left Ashthorne. Neither had she. There was too much to say, and yet too little that words could do justice to. They reached the clearing. It was just as she remembered: the same moss-covered stones, the fire-scarred tree, the earth still marked where she'd collapsed, naked and afraid. Only now, she stood here wearing a soul that had faced death, loved fiercely, and forged peace from war. Lucien joined her beside the tree. Feel smaller, he said softly. She smiled. That's because we've grown. He chuckled faintly. You sound like Matra. She'd take that as a compliment. Lucien leaned against the tree, watching her. So why here? Evelyn turned to face him. Because I need to know if I can still find the way back. He stilled. To your world? She nodded. Before everything happened, before I even knew who I was, I still had a life. It wasn't this grand or magical, but it was mine. I left people behind. Lucien looked away. People you love. Yes, she said. And no, I loved what it meant to be human. The ordinary things. Coffee in the morning. Rain against glass. Knowing that my biggest worry might be a missed deadline or a bad haircut. Lucien was quiet, but now she stepped into the center of the clearing. I have a power I didn't ask for, and a legacy I didn't choose, but they're mine now. I can't ignore that. He walked to her slowly, until they stood face to face. What are you saying? She hesitated. I want to try to open a gate. Lucien's breath caught. It might kill you, he said. It might not, she replied. And if it works, I could find a way to choose which world I belong to. He looked at her, and the ache in his eyes almost broke her. I don't want to lose you, he said. You won't, she promised. But if I don't try, I'll always wonder who I could have been. She reached into the satchel at her side and drew out the relics, now dimmed, quiet, but still heavy with potential. I think I know how to do it, she whispered. I've seen Elvira's memories. She once tried to open a rift. She almost succeeded. Lucien touched her hand. And if the rift opens? What then? I go through, she said, just for a moment, just to see. And if you can't come back? She met his gaze. Then you'll know I tried. He swallowed hard. Then let me try with you. No, she shook her head. It has to be me. The soul tether is still fragile. If we both go, it might snap. Lucien stepped back, reluctantly, reverently. Then I'll wait. She smiled through the sting in her chest. Always so dramatic. He laughed barely. I learned from the best. Evelyn placed the 3 relics on the ground, forming a triangle. She stepped into the center, closed her eyes, let her breath slow. The earth pulsed beneath her, the air shimmered, and then she spoke the ancient words Elvira once whispered on a blood moon. Between light and shadow, let the soul divide, let the door remember. The relics began to glow. The ground vibrated. A line of light split the clearing vertical, trembling, like a blade slicing through air. Evelyn's heart raced. She reached forward, and touched it. She didn't fall this time. She drifted weightless and aware through a veil of memory. Images flickered around her: her mother's laugh, Her bedroom window in summer, the first article she ever wrote. She wept without tears. And then, a city, skyscrapers, a hospital, a newspaper headline, teen girl still missing after 2 weeks. Her name beneath it. Her world. So close. She reached for it, and the veil pulled back. Her eyes snapped open. She stood once more in the clearing. Lucy and caught her as she stumbled. You made it back, he breathed. Evelyn clutched his coat, trembling. I saw it. My world. It's still there. He said nothing. She looked up at him. But I didn't go through. He touched her cheek. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Because this is home too. The morning after the veil opened, the world felt quieter. Not empty, not dull, but clearer, like someone had scrubbed away the noise and left only what mattered. Evelyn sat beneath the fire-scarred tree in the hollow fang clearing. The relics now returned to their velvet satchel. Dull, dormant, their purpose fulfilled. Lucienne sat beside her, silent, steady. She had told him everything, what she saw in the veil, the glimmering city skyline, the hospital flyer, the sound of sirens. Her world, her earth, still spinning without her. Part of me wanted to run into it, she said, voice hushed, to chase the life that never got this complicated, but I didn't. Lucienne nodded once. Because this is yours now. She looked at him, eyes shining. Because you are. For a long time, they just sat there, side by side, hands intertwined. She leaned her head on his shoulder, her heartbeat matching the rhythm of his, still faint, still fragile, but growing stronger with every breath. I used to think the hardest part was knowing who I was, Evelyn murmured. Human, vampire, werewolf, Elvira. Evelyn, none of it made sense. Lucy, and tilted his head. And now I realize I'm all of it. And that's not something to be afraid of. She smiled. It's something to live with. Live, he echoed, as though testing the word. After everything, it still sounds strange. Maybe that's why we try, she whispered, to make it feel less strange. Day by day, he looked down at her, brushing her hair behind her ear. What will you do now? She breathed in the scent of pine, of frost-kissed moss, of the lingering magic in the air. Rebuild. Speak for those who can't. Help mend what war broke. His lips quirked. A noble cause. I am technically noble, she teased. Even if my court is a half-burned groven to sarcastic vampires. I've met worse rulers. She turned to him, fingers tracing the scar left on his side. And you? I'll follow, he said without hesitation. Wherever you go. I'm not a queen, Lucienne. No, he said softly. You're something rarer. His kiss tasted like ashen stars. Like promises made not in fire but in the aftermath. Later that day, Val arrived with news. The clans have agreed, he said, his voice as measured as ever. The Tri-Clan Council will be formed. The seat once held by Ashthorne's crown will now be split in 3 equal voices. Evelyn smiled faintly. They didn't throw a fit. They did. But they're tired, Evelyn. Even vampires reach the end of their war. She nodded. Good. He studied her for a long moment. And you? I'm staying, she said. Not just for Lucienne. Not just for peace. But because this world needs bridges. And I'm one of them. Val's expression didn't change, but his voice did just slightly. Then I'm proud to call you sister. Evelyn blinked. What? He looked away. I said nothing. She laughed, then pulled him into a hug before he could flee. His arms hovered awkwardly for a moment before returning the embrace, quiet and tight. I'll see you at the next summit, she said. I'll bring the wine. That night, beneath a sky scattered with stars foreign and beautiful, Evelyn stood once more before the veil. It shimmered faintly, still open, still offering her a way home, but she didn't take it. She placed her hand on the edge and whispered, "Thank you for who I was." Then she stepped back and let it close. The air rippled, the magic faded, and Evelyn Cross, Elvira Nightbloom reborn, daughter of 2 bloodlines, so loved 2 worlds, turned to face her future. Lucienne waited at the edge of the trees, his smile soft and certain. She walked to him, not because she had to, but because she chose to. Epilogue. 1 year later, the hollow fang grove now held a stone circle where the old fire-scarred tree had stood. It was ringed with fresh flowers, carved with symbols of the moon and the rose. Young werewolves trained there. Vampires met in council without blades. And in the clearing, a girl with silver-threaded hair laughed as she taught a boy how to hold a quill. Lucienne watched from the shadows, arms crossed, amused. You're training them to write before they can fight. Words build bridges, Evelyn called back. Fists, just knock them down. He crossed the grove, wrapped his arms around her waist. I still dream of that night, he whispered, when you chose me. She leaned into him. It wasn't just you I chose. It was this, all of it. And above them, the moon watched, not in judgment, but in blessing. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe for more beautiful tales. Tap the next thumbnail to continue your journey.